Thanksgiving? Excuse me?
We went down to the.
Oh, no.
So how about you?
We just had Jeff's brother.
We went down
Was it
Wednesday
good?
night.
Yeah, traffic was fine.
Good.
It-
Excellent.
Nothing too exciting.
David, how was it for you? Any good food?
No, they wanted to see what, they wanted my double six stuff, and they wanted to see what it was. Yeah, Justin was talking, and I told him to give it to Jacob, he would have.
You jungle too?
Is Devil's
Right,
Six.
yeah.
And then Jacob, and then Justin said last night, like using it because he wasn't using it, and then Jacob using it.
It's not a good party unless somebody's leaving.
It's all fun and games till somebody loses.
That's right.
But somebody was a lot. No.
My dad always preferred to, I mean, he still prefers to sit at the kids' table with us. Like, he never wanted to sit and have.
Yeah, more fun.
Well, yeah, she's not insane. She's not crazy. She's not insane.
Yeah, that was probably it.
Yeah. Especially the dog.
It was Cyber Monday.
Most of the stuff was like the sales were from yesterday through
Yeah.
the week.
Yeah, I started last night.
That's like go shopping today.
If I don't need to go to the store,
When I worked in retail. Like,
I have
no,
no.
understood. Of course.
So now
So
to
you
like
want to read
read
that
that.
one. That's what I was trying to stay away from the Alex and
Well, it's still.
People are just being very
That's
nasty
what we
this
used to
time
do.
of year.
It's
It's a lot of shit.
Go shopping the next
We
day.
were closed last night.
Oh, gosh, was it crazy?
No,
No.
no, we had to get some stuff from his father. I didn't want to go today, so I got to so we split. Got in, got out, it was saying a lot of cashiers.
Oh,
That's what everyone's wanting.
They're home, they got to do it.
Is that what we said at the Christmas?
So like 3 weeks. That's all it covers.
Well, dude, that's it's supposed to be a whole year. So maybe it's, Christmas of next year? So
No, I still want my 11
2000.
by, I still want my 11 by
What about one?
Everything I want, everything.
They make it less by 11.
The biggest one, the biggest mass produced was the 17 or 17.
So
The
Johanna,
biggest actual.
David is this incredible Rubik's Cube solver,
Oh, really?
and so he has a 5x5 here.
I learned to solve this and a 4x4 yesterday.
It's
And-
totally the age.
It's amazing, is it?
Yeah, it's
But
like
I-
a middle school boy thing. I swear,
A few months ago.
it'll.
His obsessions usually last about a year.
Yeah.
It's only gotten that crazy.
What?
And you have what was the other one that Belinda, is it Belinda's or?
Will you destroy it?
It was an accident. I turned it in a way that wasn't supposed to turn. I didn't know that. And
It's
the
okay.
thing
That was high school,
exploded,
though.
and the piece broke off.
Sorry. I didn't even, I didn't know that.
The funky shit was Belinda's office, my nephews had it on and saw. So if it's messed up, you just have to.
No, we have one that was from there that,
Oh, it's
exploded.
That was Poppy's fault.
Mommy, how was that?
I don't think he was in.
Not very good, so.
He likes to take them apart though.
I don't do that anymore.
My cousin, I remember when I expressed frustration, we were little, and he's like, oh, all you have to do is pull the stickers
Yeah,
off.
that's what I, that's what I first understood. I was like, that's how I see it. You're supposed to stickers off, put them back on, and then I saw it, but now they're tiles, and you can't.
That's
So we
the
can't.
bad.
They've outsmarted.
That's the Rubik's brand. The good kind, like the roll.
It's the old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
have to get a quicker spinner now.
Right.
So, like, that was the whole
Right,
thing.
some of them are like much
How
faster.
fast.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah.
And they make like apparently like.
Yeah, you showed me some-
Yeah.
you showed me the
Faster
video.
now.
Yeah, and that was one of the next people that had in my
For a
house.
second, just,
So some of them are, I mean, I've never seen like shapes of something.
Yeah,
So, you know, they're not square.
And there's like shapeshifters.
Yeah.
So there's the
Yeah.
ones that has all gold. Like all nine sides are like gold. And it looks like a cube, but like if you turn it twice, you can see that the shapes are not all square. Some of them are.
moves and
Oh,
that.
it's crazy.
I looked them up on like Amazon.
Certain method copies
Yeah,
that,
because
that's
there's just so many.
But I remember how Benjamin was learning, he would say, notes. You know, and I was
They
like,
did, they had like a cheat sheet. of
Yeah.
like arrows. You could like teach them like.
yeah.
Mom, those are fakes, they never work. She ripped it off me, and I did it over and over and over a million times. And I think it
No, it was like, I think my kids were maybe
70s or 80s.
70s, 80s.
Yeah.
I think my kids were
Oh, yeah, they
little.
make cheat sheets though. I don't know if they're that
I want to
accurate.
experiment.
They're pretty accurate.
I'm good at that.
But that green right there,
Yeah. And but I know
there's a David Algerian law in intelligence.
So Benjamin was this award.
It's a educational psychology concept where, and it was something like an IQ test.
But that's not what he said. So it was making me giggle.
That's
So
like
that
that
you're
here.
fine.
Like, do you even know what it means? That's cool. And so to like celebrate the fact that you are really intelligent.
There's definitely one of these crazy rings that came apart and you had to like twist it. The puzzle ring, yeah.
Before you join the military, you're and that's kind of, I mean, that's more, they just test a whole bunch of different skills. So they can get in there.
Oh, I know, that's what we should do, we should have pajama night. Yeah.
There's kinetic, intelligence, people who are really good.
You cook Thanksgiving for the family?
We should be recognizing.
We just had Jeffrey's
all
brother.
these ways that people can get, so it's
Right.
not just one particular kind of academic.
What's this? Oh, good, there you go.
I asked her mother.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly know how that happened. We call it so when I spoke to my mom, I was like, well, what did you do? And she said, oh, we've got bagels and lox and lox and purple. Well, we don't even
About the shades.
Yeah. I mean, there was a turkey in our house, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I ate the salad.
Right, yeah.
So did you have a turkey at your house yesterday or no?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
did
mean, there are
before.
like my, there are people who eat, but I don't know about it.
Yeah.
So you don't eat the brisket at the hunter?
No. Not my thing.
You're watching your show.
You eat fish or no?
Sometimes. It's like,
Yeah.
myself.
All you want is that Shelby is like a
Yeah.
superstar. Like
If I want, like, if I had wanted turkey,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not really appealing.
yeah.
But if I want, no, I don't eat any like non-meat. I would just, if I wanted it, I would just.
everyone's eating the same.
No, I know, but like I don't eat any of the like soy-based meats. Like if I wanted to eat meat, I would eat it. I don't want something that was like meant to look or smell. Okay, like if I wanted that, then I would eat it. Like I was saying, if I wanted to, I would have said so. I do.
Just exhausted all
not like 12 steps. It's not like that.
Actually, it's exhausting and all the cooking.
So how long have you been
Most of our, I would say, most of our.
Service there.
All right.
Sometimes I like fish. Sometimes I will. I don't really eat I just
Black Friday.
grains. Yeah.
See, she advertised this Bible when free sale.
What are they getting?
I don't know. You have to grab the
Black Friday, like discount membership for 10 minutes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Does it look like any other grain? Like couscous?
Maybe, but it's, you ever use sorghum?
I know what it is, yeah.
So
Bigger than quinoa? The size of Israel?
Yeah.
maybe about as red as these.
Okay.
And so you cooked it for about an hour. So it's supposed to be tender. I don't know if I cooked it.
Okay.
How tender it was supposed to be. I've never made it before. But it was delicious. So then it was garlic and onion, celery, butternut squash that I think should be cooked a little longer. Some toasted potatoes, Italian parsley, and thyme, a little olive oil, and red wine.
That sounds like something that would be good, either hot or cold.
Yeah.
Like after it's all been cooked, like in the next day, you could probably eat it cold.
So then I was thinking like there's some craisins in there.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like stuffed squash.
No, it was just all, and it looked pretty because you have I have the Italian onion chopper, so I had perfect little squares of butternut squash.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty.
Yeah.
The green from the parsley.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It was nice combination.
It's like a new thing. An hour's a long time.
Maybe if you find the right thing to mix it with.
Here's the treasure journals. Yeah, or West Coast Farms. That's sort of she's kind of tall and stately. And so, like, if she's near one, like, within 10 miles, she'll text me and say,
That's right, we were running
That's right.
and then we'll start. Right.
We should have a little list right now. Check in with people.
Like one to the old states. I do, yeah, like once a month.
Yes.
I could
Like
like
the
that.
shoulder.
Then
Someone I work with.
Yes.
Yeah, did everyone get all the purpose on your way in? Everyone's got? All right, we'll start in about 30 seconds. Does Jeff still have it? Don't worry, it's all right. My Shabbos, Bruchim Habayim, come on in, Bear Bunch. Nice to have you all here. You can move closer, you don't need to be in the back row. Good view? Yeah? Okay. Excellent. I can see everything back there. You escaped nothing. Okay. I know, we often joke that, you know, in some places they auction off the front row as if it's a prize. We should auction off the back row. Good Shabbos. Thanks for coming out. I hope everyone had an opportunity to give thanks in whatever way you could. Whether you had an opportunity on your own to give thanks or surrounded by family or friends. Even when things can have sometimes a shadow over them as well, it's still so important and so special to even still find the sweet in the day and in the season. There's something so Jewish about offering thanks, and supposedly the origins of Thanksgiving are in the festival of Sukkot. The early forefathers were so inspired by our harvest festival and the ways in which Jews gave thanks for our bounty and for our abundance and made sure to share it with others, that was some of the early inspiration for the holiday of Thanksgiving. Well, I'm thankful that you are all here tonight to help me celebrate Shabbat, and I hope you find some Shabbat peace as well. Let's take a nice deep Shabbat breath, in and out. Letting go of anything that stands in your way of feeling fully present. Taking another nice deep breath. And we celebrate how nice it is for brothers and sisters to dwell together. I'm on page 128 for Hine Matov. And by the way, I will remind you, if your prayer book has 2 page numbers in each corner, you're going to follow the ones in brackets. Page 128. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Again, page 120. Make it look so easy. I know, right? now we turn to page 138 for a mystical way of welcoming Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. The mystics liken Shabbat to a bride. And we would reach out to that bride to welcome her into the space, and we, the people of Israel, were like her groom. And that is how festive Shabbat should feel, that it's like a wedding. That's a feeling of joy. And so, Lecha Dodi, beloved, come to meet the bride. We're saying that to each other. Come to meet Shabbat. I'm trying to decide which melody we should do tonight. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor zachor b'dibor echad yishmi'anu. And now let's stay standing and turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadav v'yitkadash shalei rabbi, ve'amad b'rachurtei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yom echon, u'chayechon et Yisrael, bagala, uvizman koriv, v'im Let's join together in English on the top of 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv ha'rabim. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amcha. Those of you who haven't had a chance to meet Jody, by the way, if you heard, she kind of made a little pause when she said Egypt. And so I will think of you now all the time. Jody is an Egyptologist. And so whenever we have questions about Egypt, especially as we come closer to Passover, we're going to be coming to you. So thank you for reading that so beautifully. And I couple that creative translation of the Haftarah with the next line in the footnote, which is by a man named Julius Lester, who converted to Judaism and wrote a wonderful book about his journey called Love Song. And the quote is, "Judaism is a doing which can be grasped only by the heart." And when I first read that, and when I thought about it, at first, I find myself thinking there's almost something oxymoronic about it. Like doing, action, for me, doesn't necessarily mean that the heart is involved. I don't know. Maybe I associate action more with logic, with rationality. But what do you think? What do you think about doing that is grasped only by the heart? What is that phrase, and coupled with the translation that Jody read for us?
Passion.
What?
Passion.
Passion. So can you say more? What is it about Judaism, perhaps, that for you incorporates passion?
It's not a thoughtful process of reason. It's a belief in and a passion in doing.
And that passion is the motivation
Right.
for why we do. That's beautiful. Who else? Anybody else have a thought about that? A doing grasped only by the heart. Are there other things in your life, perhaps, that you feel like are a doing grasped by the heart?
The profession.
Hopefully. I think we all dream of professions that are a doing grasped from the heart or grasped by the heart. I can speak to that, but I hope all of us are in something that feels like that.
Raising children.
Raising children.
I was just going to say, just love.
Love in general. The doing involved in love, right? It's a feeling, yes, but it's a doing.
And if you don't do something complete, do what your heart feels, and doing something you just go through the motions, unless you truly believe it.
So the heart part is what takes it away from just being an action, just going through emotions, and instead makes it a complete, I don't know, something that you do with your whole being. Would that be another way to say it? So how do we take that then into the realm of religion? If we go back that way, of the doing with our whole selves. Is there anything in Judaism you feel like you would do that? That you can give with your whole self, or you experience with your whole self? And if not, maybe we can all look for something. Maybe we can be open to the experience. Think about it. Think about if there can be a Jewish experience that can be grasped by the heart, by the soul, by our bodies, by our whole selves. Thank you all for what you had to say. You've given me a lot to think about. You're pointing to this. Go ahead, explain why. I mean, I know where you're pointing to that, but go ahead.
I think everyone knows what that is there. It's
So it starts over here. So what Doron reads so beautifully for us is a quote from Pirkei Avot, from the Mishnah. Al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed. On three things the world stands. On Torah, so on, yes, the Torah that's in the Ark, but really on the totality of Jewish knowledge. On avodah, on worship, on anything that connects us to God, to the divine. But then there's the gimilut chasadim part. And that's the deeds of loving kindness that we perform in our world. So maybe that's part of that connection as well. The three prongs of that stool that keep us balanced. Thank you. Page 158. Page 161. Johanna, do you mind please reading at the top of the page?
Oh, not at all. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, and that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will.
Baruch atah Adonai, borei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Ve'shameru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, be'dorotam mi'olam. Ve'shameru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, be'dorotam mi'olam. Beini uvein b'nei Israel, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Ve'shameru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, be'dorotam mi'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Ve'shameru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, be'dorotam mi'olam. Ubayom hashvi, Shabbat vaynafash, Shabbat vaynafash, Shabbat vaynafash. Ve'shameru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, be'dorotam mi'olam. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Page 164, please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach uviagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai may be seated when you have finished your prayers. Shabbat Shalom. And good Shabbos again. For those of you who are longtime members of the CBSRZ family, thanks for being here tonight or choosing to spend your Friday night with us. For those of you who are newer parts of our family or who aren't with us as often, we're really glad you're here tonight too. And we hope that you feel just as much a part of our family, even when you're not here, because you are very important to us and you've helped to create this wonderful feeling in the space tonight. So tonight, we take this nice feeling and we send it to our family members, to our friends, to people in our world who are in pain, who are suffering, who are suffering from an illness, from an injury, from pain of the body, pain of the soul. And we send our prayers for a refuah shlema. And shlema, that word has shalom in it. So we pray for peacefulness and we pray for wholeness, shlemut, as well. And so we're going to send our prayers for a refuah shlema to Reagan Konecki, John D. Nicolo, Nancy Schwam, Sam Rosenblum, Miriam Swidler, Simon Alexander Petty, Larry Mancini, Charles Sabat, Debbie Clymer, Layla Phillips, Earl Bellows, Josephine Stricker, Cindy Rashal, Dovin Ben Mayer, Arthur Myers, Iris Clark, Stacy Reed, Betty Pear, Michael Price, Jim Nickel, Nan Kraszewski, Susan Furman, Marty Schichtman, and Fred Schaefer. Who else are you thinking of tonight, sending your own healing prayers to, and whose name would you like to share out loud?
David Lazar.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Livarech, Kol Chalima Ela. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, bless and heal all those who are ill. We pray, God, that they return to us soon with a healing of mind, body, and of spirit. Baruch atah Adonai Rofech Chalim, we praise you, God, who cares for the sick. Let us say together, Amen. Let's turn to page 371 and join together in Mishaberach. Celebrate as well. Anybody have a birthday, anniversary, something exciting going on in your life that you want to share with us tonight? Nothing.
Our first Thanksgiving in Connecticut.
Well, hey, that's awesome. And we're so excited that you're here today. The snow. Well, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope it was delicious and sweet and relaxing in some way, not too much of a chore at any one point. It doesn't count. What else? What else is going on in people's lives? Persons, you want to share about your family celebrity?
Person of the week.
Yes, Karen was person of the week in the local paper.
Wonderful art.
It was such a great article.
Very proud. And my girls are all pulling for them.
And that is so sweet too. It's always so nice to see you all. Well, wonderful. Well, please wish Karen another mazel tov from all of us. And it is so nice to see most of the Burson bunch here. So interesting. I planned a discussion for tonight, making an assumption, but they know what happened. You know what they say me about when you assume. What I was going to assume was that we would be a small group tonight. And therefore, what I wanted to discuss with you would be quite relevant. But interestingly, my topic is now irrelevant, but we're going to talk about it anyway. I wanted to talk about with you the concept of the minion. Not like the little yellow dudes, right? But the idea of a minion. And who can define for us what a minion is in a Jewish context?
Not one here. Not one here.
Not one here. No, right? Do we even have 10? No, we don't even, right? Okay, you're right. Well, but women are counted, right, in our cities. Okay, so a minion is, in an Orthodox Jewish context, it'll be a group of 10 men, or the minimum 10 required men. Once you have met that minimum, certain things can happen. There are certain prayers that you cannot recite until you have met that minimum. So what are some of the prayers? What do you remember, for those of you who are familiar with the minion, what prayers you cannot say unless you have a minion?
Can't do the Torah.
Correct.
You can read and study Torah, but you cannot, you can open the ark. You do have to open the ark in order to read the Torah, that's right. We can't magically have it teleport out of the ark, yes. So we do have to open the ark. No, and we do read the Torah, but we don't do Baruch Hu. That's one of the prayers we don't do if there's not a minion. We don't do Mourner's Kaddish. We don't recite the Mourner's Kaddish if there's not a minion, and that's going to be where I really want to go with this conversation. Anyone else aware of another prayer we don't say if we don't have a minion? The other one we don't do is the prayer at the end of the Amidah before you go to the silent prayer. So tonight we said Atah Kadosh V'Shem Kadosh. In the morning it's the Kiddushah, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That's not said if you don't have a minion also. In an egalitarian context, whether it's conservative or reform, and assuming women are counted also, as long as you're over the age of 13, men and women, you have, again, that minimum of 10, right? So, let's think about the Mourner's Kaddish. What might be a benefit to requiring a group of 10 in order to recite the Mourner's Kaddish? Comfort. How so? Can you say more about that?
Just being able to comfort the person that might be wanting somebody,
Yeah.
either show up.
Beautiful. That's what I've always seen as a really beautiful aspect of requiring a minion. It's taking an act of compassion and making it Jewish law, right? Saying you're not allowed to recite the Mourner's Kaddish if you're not surrounded by 9 other people, right? Therefore, you're not going to be alone when you recite Kaddish, right? Any other advantages anyone can think of? That's the major one I think of, but someone else might have another suggestion. So let's think about then some of the challenges. What are some of the challenges? If you're requiring 10 people in order to recite Mourner's Kaddish. Getting people to show up. Alan, is that what you were saying? Yeah. Depending on which communities perhaps you've been in before, you may, maybe you or someone you know has gotten that phone call of, oh, we need one more person for the minion, you need to come. And we can't start services until, or we can't recite Kaddish until everybody's here. So getting people to show up. So there's that pressure issue, right? But also, again, it comes back to the idea of hopefully we're not going to let that person be alone. Another challenge I feel is if we're requiring there to be a minion. Are we going to say to a person, we don't have a minion and therefore you cannot recite Kaddish? And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if anyone here has ever recited Kaddish for a loved one, for a family member, Can anyone speak to what that experience was like and what is it like reciting Kaddish for somebody? Yeah, John.
As I think you know, I question the existence of God.
What a good Jew you are. That's okay.
The one prayer that I always say is Kaddish, because I'm hedging my bets. In case she's there, then I listen. And when I grew up, everybody said Kaddish, everybody stood, because there weren't people to say Kaddish for the 6 million Jews.
Yes.
So I've always had the feeling, and it's interesting that you said that, because I questioned that, well, if there aren't 10 people, there's enough compassion. What if I said, but I want to do that?
Right.
I would be put off by the fact that my religion says, no, you can't, it doesn't have meaning. And my feeling has been that it is the one, for me personally, the one possible real connection to both to Judaism and to God.
Wow.
But again, it's my personal.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you. Responses or other thoughts? Yeah.
Just a thought, I think when you've lost somebody, you think about them every single day, but I think when you recite the Kaddish on that, especially more, the yahrzeit for somebody, that it really makes you remember them even more, just sort of in a different way.
Yeah. So sometimes even allowing ourselves the space, that first year for sure, right? But then even over time, when it comes back to the yahrzeit, like you said, that anniversary of someone's passing, giving yourself the space to say, right now, I'm really going to allow that morning to come forward.
Because it makes it more, not that it makes it more, but it does make it more, on that, especially the yahrzeit.
Yeah.
Just sort of brings a lot of thoughts and things back.
Yeah. And it's a ritual that is quite meaningful to a lot of people. I mean, even people who otherwise don't find other rituals meaningful. There's something really powerful about Kaddish. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this tonight was because I was imagining we'd maybe have 5 or 6 people here tonight, as we have, I think, last year around Thanksgiving weekend. And I can't imagine turning to whoever would be here and saying, sorry, you might have been here for a yahrzeit, but we can't say Kaddish tonight. I can't imagine that. And that's for me, where as a Reformed rabbi, I feel that I can look at the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and I can make an evaluation, and I can say, I understand the letter of the law, and I understand a lot of the reasons why we need that 10. And yet, the spirit of the law is, we never forget. We honor the memories of people after they've gone, and the people who have been so significant in our lives, who have inspired us to want to come back year after year and honor their memories. And how can I stop that tribute, that remembering from taking place? So one other interesting complication that I was discussing with my husband at dinner, because this is the kind of stuff we discuss over dinner, and nowadays you can live stream funerals from home. Would we count if we knew, let's say we had 6 people here, and we knew there were 4 people tuned in tonight to our service because we live stream our services? What do you think? Would they count in a million? And of course, the chair of our communications committee is here tonight, so this is important, Johanna. Now we're dealing with halakha when we talk about live stream. What do you think? If people are tuning in, is their presence tuning in? Is that the same as being in the room? And I really do. I ask this of people who have recited Kaddish, for a loved one when you've had that experience. Is it the same? What do you think Jewish law? Because I don't believe Jewish law has weighed in on this yet. What do you think?
Well, the Orthodox wouldn't allow it because they won't let you put in electronic.
So thank you. That's what I said to Seth. I'm like, oh, it's a non-issue, it's a non-starter because, and he's like, yes, but what if it's a morning minion?
Well,
during the week, it's the actual yahrzeit, somebody could be tuning in. So yes, excellent, good rabbinical thinking. Only because I said the same thing, but yeah.
If the idea of is to provide comfort and compassion and community, then no.
then no, it doesn't count, because they're not actually here in the room. Okay, other,
But they could still give us input, you know, they could give you insight or inspire you and, you know, still give you, words of wisdom.
so they could text us,
Well, I'm saying, you know, if they were on the big screen, you know.
maybe, that's true.
There's a way.
There is, we could have a screen here, and people could be texting from home and sending us little words.
But
Yeah,
can I just say my view?
of course, please,
Because
John.
I've tuned in,
Yeah,
because I can't be here all the time, and I think it's really important for me to have that Friday night Shabbat service. I feel I'm participating, which I was viewing it. You know, and yes, I could communicate with you via that chat thing that's going on here. But do you see it? You don't see it until after.
not until after. And so, okay, so you feel like you're participating, but
I'm
You're
not
gonna
saying
smile.
there's not value for
Oh,
the
yeah.
listener, but I would say if the law surrounding a minion
Right.
are to provide comfort, then not knowing who was there is not comforting. I also believe Kaddish is sort of a private thing anyway, so the whole idea of needing 9 people, extra people, in order for me to say it.
sure, it doesn't resonate anyway.
Doesn't, but,
With that being said,
yeah.
Well, why is there 10?
why 10? There's a few different reasons given. There's a couple places in the Torah where 10 people are specified as necessary for certain things to take place. One of them is with the pending destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham says, but what if we find 10 righteous people, right? And of course, God still can't find 10 righteous people. It's only Lot and his family, and whether they're righteous or maybe it's kind of questionable. But, so that's one of the times. And then there's another time where I believe it's connected later in Numbers or Deuteronomy when there's discussions of the number of people you have to weigh in on a particular discussion. And so it becomes this kind of magical number of a gathering. Yeah. By the way, as a total aside, I went to Brandeis University, which, as many of you know, is a very Jewish university, or yeah, it still is. And the LGBT campus group, because the statistic is 1 out of every 10 people is an LGBT, member of that community. Probably more now, but and they'd say 1 in every million, like that was their slogan on campus. 1 in every million. Yeah, John.
Is it naive, or was some of the thinking that also the volume of prayer, the volume of the voices for 10 people, that would be heard more by God, or is that not?
I can't think of a time that was part of the discussion, but that's, I think, a nice midrash. I could imagine a rabbi saying, there is something special about this volume of voices. It's a very midrashic thought, so it's an interpretation of the rule. And maybe they come up then with a legend of 9 voices don't reach God, but 10 make that extra, little journey up through the gates of heaven or something. I could see that being a completely rabbinic thought. I just don't know that it exists in text until this moment. Thank you. One for each command. Right. Well, then you get to this idea that there are numbers that repeat in Mesopotamian cultures. 4, 10, 12, because there are numbers that exist in nature. And so 10 is one of them, because 10, 12 months. So. I encourage you to think, when you encounter Jewish laws, to think about what could the reasoning be behind it, what is the spirit, what is the letter. And especially as Reformed Jews, as we are, what is the value to understanding both the letter of the law and the spirit? Because I think, especially when it comes to a minyan, minions can be so beautiful and so important and powerful in people's lives, and on the other hand, they can cause so much hurt. For women, especially when we're told we don't count in a minyan, it doesn't matter that I'm a rabbi. At certain places, I'm not going to count in a minyan. And if someone is observing Kaddish for somebody, and to be told, I'm sorry, we can't recite Kaddish. So Please don't ever take for granted your ability to mourn the way you need to mourn, the way you want to mourn, what is meaningful for you. And thank you for such interesting thoughts tonight. I really very much appreciate your insights. Yes.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what you were asking before about the whole Judaism in your heart, and that's something that you can do to help out people. It's show up, and you never know. You could be the 10th person.
So, yes, that's an amazing advertisement to like encourage people to come every single Friday night. Be the 10th, right? Be here. What do you think, David? You want to be here every Friday night? Oh, I want to be here every Friday night. There's always cookies. But you're right, that is another positive to it, is right? Like, I'm going to show up because my presence is necessary. That's nice.
There's also no law saying that you can't mourn for somebody that isn't in your family. Like you can't
Yes.
join in on, there's no law saying you can't join in on the mourning.
Excellent point. Nice way to bring it together, that your presence to help others mourn, or to mourn, as you said, people who don't have someone mourning for them. Absolutely right. Great point. Great. So we can always extend who we feel responsible for mourning for. Beautiful. I've mourned for friends. You know, I'm not one of the traditional legal official mourners, but for me it was significant to mourn for, for a while, so you do it. Excellent point. One other complication, by the way, is that if you only have 9 people and you have a Torah, the Torah can count as a 10th person. And so, huh? We have 5 here. Yeah, we have 8 in the building. Yeah, so we only need 2 people. We got to
Somebody in the room.
We'll just have the Torahs around, and we'll have like a little support group. What they are, they tend to be really quiet. On the other hand, they have a lot to say. So thank you, everybody. I so appreciate your contributions. Let me share with you a couple of announcements before we turn to our closing prayers tonight. Next Shabbat will be another just nice kind of mellow Shabbat, 7:30 p.m. on November 30th. And we'll have Meg here on piano, and it'll just be a lovely musical service. The following Friday night, December 7th, is our Shabbat Hanukkah celebration. It starts at 6 o'clock p.m. with a potluck non-dairy dinner. The reason we specify that is that most of our potlucks throughout the year are dairy/vegetarian, meaning we don't have people bring meat in their meals. But for Hanukkah, we go all out. We have incredible brisket, and so we do encourage you to bring carved, non-dairy side dishes. And we don't need any desserts, correct, Beth, I think, right? We don't need any desserts. We're taking care of that. Then at 7 o'clock, it's early that night. We are starting services at 7 p.m. Our big Hanukkah service, we're going to have our choir. We hope to have our Klappenspielers, our little kind of Jew grass group that we have in the congregation. They'll be with us, and we encourage everybody to bring their own family Chanukiah with 7 total candles, because it's the 6th night of Hanukkah, and we'll, have tables out. Everybody will light together. It's going to be so nice. So 6 o'clock dinner, 7 o'clock service. It'll be lovely. Liz Jones and Tracy Kleinberg are taking sign-ups for what you're going to be bringing, or if you have any questions. There's an online sign-up through Meal Train if you'd like to do that, or you can give them a call. Then the following Friday night now, this is 3 Fridays from now, the 14th, is our Human Rights Shabbat service. As you know, the International Human Rights Day is, I believe, the 10th of December each year, and we always try to do Human Rights Shabbat on a Friday nearest to that. And we are going to be having a presentation discussion of the life and work of Constance Baker Motley, who lived a nice amount of her life here in Chester. And so not only is she a national hero, but she also was a local hero as well. And then on Sunday, December 16th, at 4 p.m. is our Chester Soup Kitchen site. Johanna, do you want to say anything about it?
So I need volunteers. I'm usually the only one. Okay, so great. I think I have any friends.
Yes, you do.
I already know.
Yes.
So I will let you know. Okay, so there's a caveat to it. You have to get trained to do food service. And I will talk to you about that.
Okay.
But we love to have our congregation come to volunteer. You know, a lot of times we don't have anybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, well, last but not least, thank you so much to Rebecca Bixon and Andrew Mozingo and to David Bixon for sponsoring tonight's ONEG in memory of Jeremy Bixon, Donna Mozingo, and Laura Mozingo. Any other announcements or anything anybody wants to remind us about? The Hanukkah sale has started. If you do wind up wanting to take anything home tonight, you don't need to leave any money tonight. Just sign up and say you haven't paid yet because it's Shabbat and you don't want to exchange any money. But when you're here, you can take some of your Hanukkah purchases with you. Okay. Well, then let's turn to our concluding prayers. Elaine, page 586 in the middle of the page. Please rise. Page 595. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete. When those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. Page 598. In just a moment, if you hear the name of a family member or friend on our Shiva or Yortzeit list, and if you're comfortable doing so, I invite you to rise when you hear his or her name, and then to remain standing until we join you for the mourner's Kaddish. Your rising allows us to recognize your loss and offer you comfort, just as we have done for so many generations. This Shabbat, we mark the recent passing of Tony Regano. We mark the Yortzeits, the anniversaries of death for Bunny Barron, Jack Barron, Ruth Yavner Belgrade, Jeremy Dixon, Celia Bronstein, Barbara Bruno, Harry Dabowski, Nathan Frankel, Helen Friedman, Rachel Friedman, Rachel Friend, Louis Goldfinger, Marcus Hoberman, Miriam Jacobson, Joseph Katz, Jesse Lindenman, Beverly Gilman McCaffrey, Maxine Schaefer, Marilyn Schiffman, Esther Smith, and Regina Waldinger. Zichronam livracha. If anyone else is marking a Shiva, Shoshim, or Yortzeit of a family member or friend who would like to share a name out loud, I invite you to do so. May all of their memories always be a blessing to those who knew and loved them. Together now we all rise, and we join the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma tivarach v'rutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechom v'yomechom, v'chayei t'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah v'varach le'olam lo'mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaled, v'yitalal, shmei, kudisha, b'rithu, le'ela minkol, birchata, b'shirata, tush b'chata, v'nechemata, da'amiran me'alma, v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlam rabba m'yishemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom v'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Tonight. Let's do another classic. We did one last week. Page 627. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nilei Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Enter in peace, O messengers of peace. Depart in peace, O messengers of peace. and blessing. May our comings and goings likewise be filled with shalom, with peace. Shabbat shalom.
Bathroom turned into Al-Qaeda for a hot minute. Especially here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you. You lose control.
I'll take it for you.
Where do they go? Oh,
No, it's me, I was some friends.
It did seem like it.
More energy than me, that's for sure.
No, we were invited to we were just eating leftovers. How about you?
yeah, we had Jeff's brother came in, we just got to quiet.
What is this mom?